Voltron Nevera is one of the most cutting-edge roller coasters to open in 2024. The new attraction is located in Germany's Europa Park, one of the world's most premier theme parks. Built by Mack Rides, who also owns and operates Europa Park, Voltron is the first of Mack's new Striker coaster product line. Being the park owners, Mack built Voltron to both attract more visitors to Europa Park, as well as to showcase to prospective buyers just what Mack can deliver with the Striker coaster. The Striker coaster essentially combines the company's LSM launching roller coaster and Big Dipper roller coaster with improvements in all regards. Voltron features the LSM launches of Mack's established launching roller coasters, but in a more powerful form factor. And while the trains may look identical to what Mack uses in their Big Dipper product, there's a few notable improvements. In this video, let's take a deep dive into the inner workings of Voltron Nevera, and why I think this new attraction combines so many aspects of modern day roller coaster technology and thrills into one. If you enjoyed this video as it plays, I kindly ask for your support by clicking the like button, which greatly aids the channel in the continuous fight against the YouTube algorithm. Without further delay, let's delve into the incredible complexity of Voltron Nevera. Voltron is appropriately located in a new land at Europa Park themed to Croatia. I say appropriately located as the ride is themed to the famous scientist and inventor Nikola Tesla, who was born in 1856 in what is now modern day Croatia. Basing an LSM launching roller coaster to the legendary inventor is just perfect, as the very existence of the LSM launch most definitely owes its existence to Nikola Tesla, who invented the induction motor in 1888. Europa Park certainly took some creative liberty when crafting up the story of the ride, as it's based around a fictional invention of Nikola Tesla's. In fact, the park even worked with Mack's sister company, Mach 1, to develop a 4D movie and novel around the attraction's backstory. The story takes place in the year 1881 at an old Croatian hydroelectric power plant, when Nikola Tesla was still an engineering student. In a pursuit to realize the electric age, Tesla crafts a device to transport humans from one place to another as cosmic energy in the form of lightning. Riders are turned into lightning and zapped between the two Wardenclyffe towers, which have long been nicknamed Tesla Towers. There's one Tesla tower above the hydro power plant which houses the ride's queue and station, and another at the far end of the ride where the coaster reverses directions. For reference, Nikola Tesla did in fact build the Wardenclyffe Tower in Long Island, New York in the year 1901, but this invention was crafted with a much more different intention than transporting humans from place to place as lightning. In an effort to compete with Guglielmo Marconi's radio-based telegraph system, Tesla was attempting to build an experimental wireless transmission system to transmit messages, telephony, and facsimile images across the Atlantic Ocean. Unfortunately, Tesla's project was abandoned due to lack of funding and investments. But Europa Park took the failed invention and made it shine once again in a new light. This time, it's part of a system that transforms riders into lightning and blasts them from Tesla Tower to Tesla Tower. As to the ride experience, Voltron is perfect proof that it doesn't take extraordinary size to create a great roller coaster. The ride is only 32.5 meters or 107 feet tall, making it less than half the height of the park's tallest roller coaster, Silver Star, and has a top speed of just 90 kilometers per hour or 56 miles per hour. But what Voltron offers that even most taller roller coasters don't is an incredible ride duration of nearly 2 minutes, from the start of the first launch to hitting the final brake run. For comparison, Silver Star has a duration of just about 1 minute of actual ride time from start to finish. Part of Voltron's long duration is accomplished by its 1,385 meters or 4,544 feet of track, but even Silver Star has a longer track layout of 1,620 meters or 5,315 feet. So because of Voltron's slower speed and shorter height, it means its ride elements don't need to be as elongated or spaced out as they do on a ride like Silver Star. This allows Voltron to have an incredible 20 elements along its layout, including the airtime hops into the brake runs. For comparison, Silver Star only has 9 elements, and the even longer and taller Fury 325X Heroines has only 11 ride elements. Integrated with Voltron's tight and more snappy ride elements are its trains, which are purpose-built to traverse its compact layout. Like I mentioned earlier, while Voltron's trains may look similar to Mack's Big Dipper trains, they actually possess a few notable improvements. Mach Striker coaster trains feature a slightly elongated wheelbase compared to the even shorter wheelbase on the Big Dipper trains. By wheelbase, I mean the amount of distance between each axle of the train. This is beneficial for two reasons. It provides more room between each row for guests to load and unload into their seats, which helps improve rider capacity. And it also better stabilizes the trains, which leads to a smoother and quieter ride experience. If you've seen my problematic roller coasters video on Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket, then you've heard all about the issues that can occur when a roller coaster has too short of a wheelbase. Another improvement is the addition of cross bracing between the inner and outer seats of each train. This was incorporated to better stabilize the outside seats of each row and avoid any vibrations, which I guess may be an issue with Mach's Big Dipper trains. Another aspect of the trains that make them work with the tight and snappy layout is their length of only 4 rows. With each row holding 4 riders, that's a total of 16 riders per train. Europa Park are known for having some of the best ride operations anywhere, and I wish more parks could operate how they do. In order for a ride like Voltron to have high rider capacity, it needs to be capable of cycling a large number of trains each hour. So that's exactly how Mach built the ride. Voltron is built to run trains at a 36-second interval, which means every 36 seconds the next train will be rolling out of the station into the ride course. This means Voltron can cycle 100 trains an hour, and at 16 riders per train, that's a theoretical capacity of 1600 riders per hour, which is quite extraordinary, especially in today's times where it seems like rider capacity is shrinking on most newer roller coaster installations. To ensure that trains consistently leave the station every 36 seconds, Mach have built a continuously moving unload and load station into Voltron that runs at 0.24 meters per second, or 0.79 feet per second. Trains slowly advance through the station while riders and the operating crew utilize moving conveyor belts to load and unload into the moving trains. This allows the ride to operate at its high capacity without requiring additional space for something like a separate load and unload station, or even side-by-side dual stations like on Storm Runner at Hershey Park. Trains are pulsed into the moving station at a desired interval, and as each row enters the moving station, the lap bar restraints are automatically unlocked, allowing that row of riders to exit the attraction and for the next group of riders to board. With all 7 trains on the track, a group of 4 riders should be loading into the attraction every 9 seconds. Restraints are unlocked by a set of pantographs positioned near the upstop wheels of each train. The pantographs are only powered in the station, allowing the harnesses to release. Voltron also employs RFID tagging technology. Ride attendants tap the back of a row with an RFID chip to signal the control system to lower that row's restraints. You heard that right. Similar to other high-end Mach roller coasters, riders do not need to lower their own restraints, and Voltron's trains will take away that hassle for passengers automatically. Once attendants have checked that row of seats, they will tap the back left and back right of that row with the RFID chip to signal the control system that that row of seats is ready to head into the ride layout. Once all 4 rows have been checked and tagged off on both sides, the control system will pulse the train out of the moving station at the correct interval. Voltron's trains are built with a neat method of indicating to ride attendants the state of its restraints. This is done by changing the illumination of the lights on the sides of each row. The illumination will change depending on if the restraints of the corresponding 2 seats above are unlocked or locked. And when a ride attendant tags those 2 seats as ready to dispatch into the ride course, the illumination will change as well. All in all, it's a very clever system of reporting the status of each train to the ride attendants on the platform. Voltron's LSM launches are also more powerful than the LSM launches Mach have used in their prior roller coasters. While both Voltron and Mach's prior LSM launching coasters use LSMs provided by Intrasys, Voltron features a more dense set of launch stators. Typically, Mach have used just 2 parallel sets of stators positioned on the left side of the track. Mach's prior launch coasters have never really had much powerful acceleration, and I believe Mach even refers to their launches as boosts. But on the other hand, Voltron features 4 sets of stators with 2 on the left side and 2 on the right side of the track. This leads to launches that exert just over 1 g of acceleration in the longitudinal direction, which I believe you won't find on other Mach launching roller coasters. Now let's get into what I'm sure you've been waiting for, the block zones of Voltron. For those of you who are unfamiliar, a block zone is a section of ride that only one train may occupy. At the end of a block zone is a method to stop a train in case the block zone ahead is still occupied. This is the safety system that prevents roller coaster trains from colliding into one another. Let's outline what I believe are Voltron's block zones. First, we have the moving station, which I believe can fit 2 full trains. Next is what I'll call the staging block, which consists of the left turn out of the station. Then is what I'll call launch 1, which consists of the launch out of the station building into the peak of the vertical loop. Next is the launch 2 block, which consists of the track from the peak of the vertical loop to the peak of the 0G stall, which directly follows the ride's second launch. I find this launch incredibly cool, as not only does it serve as a boost to launch trains into a much higher element than the Immelmann which occurs beforehand, but it also serves as a control point built directly into the flow of the coaster, which also means the segment of track can function as its own block zone. We'll touch more on this zone shortly. Then is what I'll call break 1, which is the ride's first brake run that occurs right before the turntable at the far end of the ride. Next is the turntable, which actually consists of 2 different blocks. You'll see here that one train can enter one end of the turntable, while another train in the turntable's second track undergoes the next launch sequence. So I'll call one side the turntable block and the other the swing launch block. The swing launch block consists of the second turntable track, the beyond 90-degree spike behind the turntable, as well as the track leading up to the crest of the top hat following the swing launch. Then is what I'll call the break 2 block, which consists of the track following the crest of the top hat to the ride's second brake run, which is next to the 0G stall. Next is what I'll call the break 3 block, which consists of the track following the ride's second brake run and into the ride's third brake run, which is also the final brake run. Following is what I'll call the holding block, which is located in the final brake run, and then what I'll call the sync block, which is the left-hand turn into the moving station, which pulses trains into the moving station at the correct interval. So if my guess is accurate, that's a total of 11 block zones that allow Voltron to safely operate with 7 trains on the track. With so many trains on the track, you'll spot trains in motion all over Voltron's layout. Even when only 6 trains are operating, you'll spot a train traversing the Immelmann that leads into launch 2 as the train 2 positions ahead is navigating the ride's final corkscrew. You'll also see a train traveling the dive loop towards the turntable while a train 1 position ahead is cresting the top hat. Then when 7 trains are on the track, trains run even closer to each other. So there will be at least 3 trains traveling at high speeds through the actual gravity portion of the ride. And thanks to the continuously moving station, it actually means that all of Voltron's 7 trains are in motion at any given time. Due to this, we could compare the ride to Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit at Universal Studios Florida, which I recently made a problematic roller coasters video on. But due to the moving track segments on Voltron, as well as the incorporation of several launches, I'd actually say Voltron is more similar to Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure, which is another incredibly complex ride that typically operates with a max of 10 trains. Similar to Hagrid's, where if a station stop occurs that halts the moving station, it can quickly cause a cascade that forces trains to stop along the ride layout at the next control point. Or if an error occurs as a train is traversing the layout and that train is forced to stop at a control point, it will also quickly cause a cascade as approaching trains are brought to a stop because the block zones ahead are still occupied. In this scenario, provided by Meine Freizeitpark Welt, who you should subscribe to on YouTube and follow on Instagram, their links are below, a train entering break 1 is forced to stop as the train ahead has actually remained stopped on the first side of the turntable. Park technicians quickly respond and begin pushing the train on the turntable backwards, which suggests that train had actually stopped ever so slightly out of position. In locations where trains need to fully stop, the ride control system in all modern roller coasters is programmed to stop trains in a designated position. But if trains stop just the slightest out of position, the control system will not allow that train to proceed forward until it is manually put back in place, especially in a scenario like this where a moving track piece is involved. You'll notice the ride technicians reposition the train stopped ahead, allowing the turntable to run its cycle and spin the train into the swing launch block. With the turntable now locked again in position, the train stopped in break 1 is allowed to enter the turntable block, as the train ahead is now in the swing launch block. This is a great demonstration of how each track of the turntable functions as its own block zone, and even more interesting that both tracks are able to function as both the turntable and swing launch block zones depending on the position they're in, which also means that both tracks are built to function as part of the swing launch. This helps to improve the capacity of the ride, since time is not wasted for a singular track on the turntable to rotate away from the swing launch so it can accept the next train, similar to how Hagrid's features 2 drop tracks to increase its capacity. Even more interesting, the turntable is also used to access the ride's 2 storage tracks and maintenance barn, where trains can be removed from the track when they are not in service or require any maintenance, which is even more interesting since this access point is in the middle of the ride layout and not near the ride's load station, which is more common with most roller coasters. coasters. Going back to our scenario, when the train in the video stops in the turntable block, it has also over-traveled and stopped out of position just like the train before it. A ride technician is spotted to help push the train a good distance backwards to put it into the correct position. Once the train is put in the correct position, the turntable is allowed to resume and spins the train counterclockwise into the swing launch block. Going back to the train ahead of this one, the turntable actually spun that train clockwise into the swing launch, meaning the turntable seems to reverse the direction it spins with each cycle, rather than always spinning in the same direction, which seems very interesting. Now with this situation where one train stops in the turntable block, which causes the next train to stop in the break 1 block, because so many trains are in motion on the ride, the train 2 positions behind the train stopped in the turntable block will have already executed launch 1, and will be traveling toward launch 2. But with the break 1 block still occupied, launch 2, which is built into the valley between an Immelman and 0G stall, will actually stop the train. Then once the 2 trains ahead are advanced through the remainder of the ride layout, launch 2 performs a swing launch starting with a forward launch, then a backward launch, and lastly another forward launch to get the train up and over the 0G stall and through the remainder of the ride. I love how Mach built a block zone so seamlessly into the ride layout, rather than building a more traditional mid-course brake run which can interrupt the flow of the ride. As far as the final brake run goes, that looks to be capable of holding 3 trains between the break 3 block, holding block, and sync block. Now when a station stop is needed, depending on the number of trains on the track, it will cause them to stack pretty deep into the layout. In certain scenarios, it can cause a train to stop in the break 2 block, and perhaps even the swing launch block. Now this interrupts the flow of the ride for guests to board the attraction, so it's crucial that ride operators remain efficient and keep the station moving at all times. Similar to the moving track pieces on Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure, Voltron also features several moving track pieces of its own along its layout. We already referenced the turntable at the far end of the ride, which functions as 2 block zones and appears to reverse the direction it spins with each cycle. But spoiler alert, there is also a moving track piece before the first launch out of the hydro plant. As the train is charged with electricity and riders are converted into cosmic energy in the form of lightning, the track piece below actually raises up and then bounces up and down pretty quickly. The track piece then locks into place, allowing the train to launch into the ride layout. You can actually see here as the bouncing track unlocks from the circuit, allowing it to bounce up and down. Then following the bounce cycle, the track relocks to the circuit, which permits the control system to execute launch 1. The same also happens at the turntable. In order for the table to spin the train into the swing launch block, there are 3 track segments that must unlock. The track between break 1 and the first side of the turntable, the track between the second side of the turntable and the reverse spike, and the track between the second side of the turntable and the top hat. Then once the turntable spins 180 degrees, these 3 track segments must relock in order to allow motion to continue. Now these moving track segments on Voltron require trains to stop mid-layout, which adds more complexity to the ride overall. As we mentioned earlier, these trains must stop in a pinpoint accurate position, as that is required for the ride control system to execute the motion of the corresponding track piece. But if the train stops even the slightest bit out of position, the moving track piece will not execute its motion, and the train will remain stopped in place until it's manually jogged into the correct position by ride technicians. Thus, Voltron is more prone to experiencing downtime at the moment, as evident in the various ride stop scenarios I showed earlier. Not only is it a brand new ride, but the added complexity of operating a coaster with so many block zones, 7 train operations, moving track segments, 3 LSM launches, and several locations where trains must stop mid-ride with pinpoint accuracy mean the ride has much more teething issues to comb through than a more simple roller coaster. The important thing here is that Voltron's safety system is operating just as expected, keeping all riders safe and sound. And over time, I expect Mach to truly dial in these bugs and get the ride running as reliably as possible. Beyond the technical complexity we've talked about so far, there's a lot of other awesome things about Voltron that make it a complete roller coaster package. It has great theming with special effects in the queue, including these awesome water archways in the outdoor portion of the queue. It even has a Nikola Tesla animatronic in the indoor portion of the queue. And probably coolest of all, there are singing Tesla coils built into the ceiling of the hydro power plant. Before riders climb the staircase into the moving station platform, there are double-sided lockers that I believe are free to use. Riders are able to place their bags and belongings in one side of the locker, which allows them to board the ride vehicles with little to no delay, since there is no need to place any belongings to the side of the platform. Then when riders exit the attraction, they retrieve their belongings from the other side of the double-sided lockers. The attention to detail seems to be everywhere, and the park even enclosed the staircase to the Break 2 block in a Mediterranean-style tower to help it blend into the surrounding area. And then the ride experience itself looks fantastic. Each of the ride's launches look punchy. There's an incredible number of ride elements that all seem to be taken at a rapid pace, delivering plenty of positive G-forces as well as great moments of ejector airtime. I've even heard of some reviews calling Voltron a bit too intense, since it's practically the length of 2 coasters while remaining rather intense the entire way through. I guess it helps that there is a turntable mid-ride to give riders a break, but if you're like me and love a long and intense ride, then this is certainly the ride for you. All in all, Voltron Nevera looks like the perfect demonstration of Mach Striker roller coaster, and I hope more parks purchase this product, as in my opinion, even without riding it, Voltron already looks like the best new roller coaster to open worldwide in 2024. I hope that I'm able to venture over to Europe one of these days and take a ride on Voltron, as well as some of the other amazing roller coasters in that continent. To those of you watching, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something new. If you enjoyed, please be sure to give the video a like and comment below your thoughts on Voltron, and consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.